Hello, everybody. Welcome to our November Humblewood 2 live stream. Sorry for the awkward start there. We are going to be talking about magic items today and also answering a few questions from all of y'all. So thank you for everyone who sent some questions in. And I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Jordan. I'm one of the content leads and content creators at Humblewood Press. And then, of course, I am joined, as always, by Verity.
Hello. Yes, excited to chat about some questions today and also some magic items.
As always, we are bringing something to this chat that is something that we actually have to work on and figure out. And maybe anyone joining us can help us, crack a few ideas for what we're working on. Do we want to start with some questions first, or did we want to do start talking about magic items first?
Sorry, I'm getting a lot of reverberation from. Oh, maybe it's. Hang on. Okay, sorry. I think I fixed it.
All right.
There we go. Sorry, I just was hearing your voice like 3 times over.
Oh, weird.
That was very weird. Sorry. Yes, let's crack on with some questions first. That is
okay.
A good way to go. And I'll start with the first one from Red. We got a lot of really fantastic questions from Red Lioness. First one: which VTTs will Humblewood 2 be available as digital content in?
So it's definitely going to be on Alchemy.
Yeah, for sure.
And very likely Roll20. I think we're talking about that.
Yeah.
And
we're like chatting about that for sure. Yeah.
And I'd like to do one for Foundry as well. The Humblewood one that got developed for Foundry is really good. And I know that it's popular for the folks that really want the more crunchy VTT. And then
yeah, I hope we can do that. I like Foundry. It's my VTT of choice. So,
we have a guy who does Foundry stuff real good. So I'm hoping that we'll be able to do that. And then fingers crossed, it'll look good up there on D&D Beyond as well. So, but that's not as much up to us. But those are the 4 that we'd be focusing on for sure. So.
Awesome. Yeah. The next question: will Humblewood 2 be based on the 2014 or 2024 rule set?
Want to start this one, Verity?
Yeah, so we've definitely had discussions about this because it's a pretty big choice. But we have been developing this book for many years at this point. And we know, like, one of the things we really want to make sure is that people who have Humblewood 1 will also be able to enjoy this book. So we are going to be releasing the main book with the 2014 rule set. However, you might have seen we've already started converting some of our other Humblewood things, and we're going to be converting other Hit Point Press books into the 2024 rule set. So we hopefully people will be able to pick and choose which one they want. I think at the moment the physical book will be 2014. We're considering whether we want to try and squish the 2024 in there as well, but it does cause some problems for kind of making it usable and nice to read. But either way, there'll definitely be a PDF with the 2024 rule set.
Yeah, just from our perspective on conversions and stuff, it's not too difficult. You're going to be able to run Humblewood 1 without any issues using the new rules, without any changes to monster stat blocks or anything like that. So they held up their side of the bargain, I think, pretty well on cross compatibility between stuff. So, but yeah, we're going to make sure, like Verity said, Humblewood 1 is already out there, right? The 2024 stuff?
Yes. Yeah. If you bought Humblewood 1 from us, or got it in the Kickstarter, you should already have the 2024 rules conversion. Unfortunately, if you bought it from somewhere else that we're not directly from us, we don't have your email on file, so we weren't able to send it out to you. But yeah,
But it's available. Should be available through our site, right?
I think so. If you buy Humblewood 1 in any form, you get the 2024 PDF for free. So, and it's got all the player facing content. So all the races, all the subclasses, all the feats and so on, backgrounds. The things that got really, really changed.
Yeah.
We haven't updated the adventure. And as you said, I don't really think that's not a huge priority for us.
The more we dig into stuff, the less monster stat blocks, like the other mechanical thing, and really they've changed their design thoughts about how to design a monster, but not any of the real rules around how they work. It's exactly the same. And then as far as like each location in the adventure, if something gives a condition or something, then you just use the new 2024 conditions.
Yeah, the only real big difference is not capitalized.
Yeah.
So,
we did talk about that. We did talk about that, and I think we're going to be using the capitalization from 2024 through the new book, just because it's so much clearer and easier.
I do like the capitalization quite a lot.
Yeah, I think that we got that signed off on in a meeting. Yeah. So, yeah.
These are the fun and exciting meetings we have in the content department.
It could be worse.
Like, it's not always talking about dragons and owls. Sometimes we talk about grammar.
It's about capital D dragons and capital O owls. Yep. Another question?
Right. Do you want to take this one? Or?
Sure. I'll read it. Will the Humblewood 2 campaign revisit the Scorched Grove, or mainly focus on the other continents and areas versus Humblewood 1?
So I think we're pretty clear on this one, right? Like we are not returning to the Scorched Grove in a major way in Humblewood 2. We're heading out beyond the canopy even. Yeah.
We talk about the Humblewood area briefly to give context as to where it is, where everything else is compared to it. And if you played through the adventure in Humblewood 1, there'll be guidance on how to carry on the story. And thematically, the story continues. So your heroes of Humblewood at level 5 will feel like they're pursuing similar, or at least living in the same world and involving things like the aspects and concepts like that. But no, we are adventuring around a whole new continent, or the rest of a continent and a southern continent beyond that. So it's a whole new. Through the Patreon, we've been sharing about different locations and stuff, and those are the locations that are featured.
Yeah. That kind of ties into a question we got from Nadia or Poppet. Will there be options to start Humblewood 2 as level 1 new characters, or will it be designed to continue on from Humblewood 1's ending level? So you definitely have the option to start as a new character for sure. Like we don't want it to be that you have to have played through Humblewood 1 to play through the Humblewood 2 adventure. That was like one of our main goals in designing this. If you have, there are some fun Easter eggs, there are some fun through lines, like it all makes sense together, but it's definitely not a requirement. But it does start at level 5. That is, like, unfortunately, we can't adjust the entire adventure down to level 1 again. And we think that people will be excited to like do a slightly higher level adventure. And that kind of is reflected in the types of monsters that are in this book. Like they are bigger challenges. We've heard from a lot of people that they love playing in Humblewood. They play their own campaigns that they've kind of homebrewed themselves, and that they're looking for those kind of higher level challenges because they want to keep playing in Humblewood. So that's one of our goals with this book, is making sure that kind of second tier, that's what we're kind of covering here.
That being said, though, lots of adventure hooks and ideas in the rest of the book, and each of the regions has a set of adventure hooks that I think are based on different tiers of play.
Yeah, so like all the regions will have like a low tier little adventure hook that you could build out using the information in the book to build out your own adventure. It's not a fully written up adventure, but it's got that kind of the hook, and it'll refer to the monsters that are appropriate for the levels that you're kind of thinking of. So yeah, if this is your first Humblewood book, you definitely can start at level 1. It just won't be with it'll be with the stuff in the first half of the book, all the setting stuff, rather than the second half with the kind of written out.
Your GM will have to kind of sculpt that story, or borrow from the first book or whatever it is that you want to do.
Yeah, we're trying to give the tools that people can play those kind of first tier, second tier, maybe a little bit of third tier games like with this book.
And with the Kickstarter, there is always Humblewood Tales as well that get written in PDF format. The new Kickstarter will not be any different. And that's something we could think about too, is maybe having a third level, a third level Humblewood Tale, as opposed to ones that previously we used the Humblewood Tales to sort of continue levels higher past level 4 or 5, but maybe it would make sense for us to do a level 3 adventure or even a level 1 Humblewood Tale, so that you'd have that takes place in these settings, so that you would have those things. So something we could look at.
Yeah, that's definitely a good idea. We got a question come in from Daniel, Senor Arbolito, live. Where can I buy Humblewood 2? And also notes that will be their first time mastering this setting. You can't buy Humblewood 2 yet, not quite yet. It is going to be a Kickstarter. We got another question from the Red Line. It's a similar thing. When is this going to be available? The Kickstarter, I think we're gearing it up for early next year. So that will be the kind of the time to jump on board. Of course, we will be announcing that everywhere when we have the date set. But it's looking pretty good at the moment. Things are rolling along fairly well. After the Kickstarter, obviously we still have to do some work on the book, but we're feeling, I feel like we're fairly well on in the process. We've learned a lot from other projects, and hopefully we'll be able to get the book out to people.
It should not be a long wait for at least an early version of the PDF. So after the Kickstarter launches, after the Kickstarter completes, you should have a version, something. In fact, it helps us a lot for everyone to be looking at it, even in an early, rougher form, so that we can get feedback and from everyone. So
yeah, I mean, there's so many things that go into making these books. Like even if we have all the text complete, it's like the designing of the book, getting the art in, and like knowing what our budget is. All these kind of things for kind of like how much cool extra stuff we can put in the book. So like patience is appreciated, but I feel like we're fairly on track to get this rolling out next year.
We'll be announcing the Kickstarter launch date very soon, I think. So stay tuned to all of our. Senior Arbolito also asks, do I need to have the first book in order to play or understand the world setting in the second book? No. Especially we're going through the second pass on it right now after having an editor look at it. And one of the things that Verity and I are doing are expanding the sort of lore of the setting section a little bit more. If anything, you'll get a bigger picture of what the world of Everden, which Humblewood is literally just a little patch compared to like the larger setting. And so you're gonna have we're making sure that there's enough information in there so that you can understand the big picture stuff. I think Humblewood 1 will provide a lot of insight into the vibes we're trying to get across, the type of story, but you don't need to have it or play through it to play in this one. We're making sure that that it's standalone type thing. I guess something you might miss out on is some of the playable races that sort of were foundational in the original Humblewood book, but you could supplement that with just a PDF copy, or pick it up on D&D Beyond if you use that.
We want to be able to it is still in the world of Humblewood, it is still Everden, but we want to find the right balance of giving enough information that if we refer to a character, say, as like a Vulpin, you know what a Vulpin is, but the playable race Vulpin is in the first book. We're not we're not republishing material from the first book, but we also want there to be enough new player-facing material that, if you just solely want to run with this book, you definitely can. There's loads of races, subclasses, the new class, feats, backgrounds, all the stuff, new spells. So you definitely don't need Humblewood 1. If a player is I really want to play as a fox, that's when you go to Humblewood 1 to kind of get that information. But yeah,
new sub races that are based on creatures from the first book have the full race along with them in this one. So the new Arma hedge that are based on the hedgehogs they have the full rules for playing a hedge. They just have the different sub race, as opposed to, same with all the bird folk and things. You'll have the fully playable, if it's a sub race, for example, it will have the fully playable race. You don't have to have the original game and then this is DLC for it kind of thing. So it's just,
it's self-contained within the book.
Yes, new updates, new things.
Yeah, thank you, Critical Nerds. We also say woo.
We say woo all the time. Yeah. Red Linus was asking about new races, so we could quickly go over what's there.
Yeah, that's the question I was gonna.
Perfect.
So what new races will be available? So I think they've all been shown on the Patreon at this point. They've all been play tested on the Patreon, so they're definitely not secret. We've got the Caprins, who are goat and sheep people. The Allurans, who are our cats, so big cats, small cats, medium-sized cats. Then as Jordan was mentioning, the Arma hedge. So that's the original hedgehogs. These are your more armored versions, so pangolins, armadillos, things like that. They're super cute. And then also super cute, and another subrace is the Rockburrow Gerbine. So the original Gerbine, little bouncy mouse people. These are the fluffier, kind of rounder cousins. So your chinchillas, your pikas. Personally, a guinea pig. I love guinea pigs. I would definitely play a Rockburrow Gerbine as a guinea pig. And then we've got the Mustels. So they are kind of all the badgery type things, wolverines, as well as weasels, stoats, any long boys. They kind of all fall under Mustel. And then we've got a couple of new bird folk, the Sita, who are kind of parrots, toucans, very brightly colored jungle birds, and then the Sylph. So they are real tiny little guys, hummingbirds, and other really, really small birds. And then finally, last but not least, the Tilia. So they are kind of gecko, lizard type people. They're very cute. They're very fun. Yeah.
Our first non-feathered, non-fuzzy.
A scaly type creature. They're very cute. I've done a lot of art research on cute types of lizard. It's a good Google search. I highly recommend cute gecko as a Google search.
So is that 10 Are we at 10?
I think it's 8 in total. Yeah, it's 8
but
in this
even so, that populates a world very well, and it's all of those. They're characters that are they're creatures that live all across the continents, but they also tie into the vibes of the different areas. The Caprins have a very specific kind of area that they they fit into really well, and of course things like the Sita, the parrot kind of folk, they fit into the Tanglewild really well, and yeah, so there's lots. I reached Senior Arbolito said I reached a Humblewood because I was looking for a cute Owlin character, and then I saw Riffin. Yeah, Riffin has sold a lot of books over the years now, I think.
He's the best boy.
And rightly so. We've been struggling to find the Riffin of this book, or at least it was a focus to make sure that there's somebody cute. And we've landed on somebody I think that everyone's going to like. I think if anything was going to compete with him, it was going to be a little cat person. And so...
Yeah, I'm excited for everyone on the Patreon to meet her on in December. She's going to be there.
Yeah, she's a lot of fun. We're weaving her into the story even more now, and making sure that you love her very much by the time that she gets in trouble. So, yeah.
Yeah, Critical Nerds, all excited for Allurans. You can make more friends for Eliza. Yes, I think Allurans are going to be very popular. They're super fun. They're super cute. We've gone kind of all in on the Alluran language, which I'm very excited for people to grapple with. It's a really fun piece of writing. So yeah, the Allurans are very, very cool and very cute.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun, I think, little puzzle, because you can translate, I think, a lot of the names, the Alluran names, so directly into their origins. So yeah, it's cool. It was neat to work with someone on that. Senior Arbolito says, so I want to buy the first book now to master, and now I see that it will be a second. I think I need it. Well,
we're not going to argue with you.
This isn't meant to be a marketing stream, but if we caught you, then that's really great. I am very proud of Humblewood 1, and it's very important to us. And Verity has become kind of the steward of it, which is a big responsibility, but she's doing great, and Humblewood 2 is going to be just as awesome. It has to be, but it also will be. So.
Yep. Also, just to mention, now is a fantastic time to pick up anything on hitpointpress.com. It is the Black Friday sale. It ends on Monday.
Again, coincidental that this is the day that it landed on, but you can't beat the price. And we also have the physical. We have the kind of imperfect copies of Humblewood 1, which are still perfectly playable and very affordable. So if you're a little bit on the fence, pick up one of those. You do us a favor whenever you pick up one of those, because we have a lot of them. They're really, you don't even notice the differences.
Slight print.
Yeah, slight print.
Page, that's all it is.
And it comes with an errata sticker, I think, included in it, and so you're not missing out on any content.
Yeah. So another question from Red Linus, will a world map be provided?
I think so. At least a half of a world map.
Yeah.
Because
the world map's been out in the wild for some time, but the version that we'll be getting in this book will have some nice labels on it. And we are the world map will probably be there. Maybe not in the book. Maybe it's kind of an add-on for the Kickstarter, but the Western, yes, 100%, will be there with details, all sorts of places that people can visit and see.
Yeah, pretty much if you split that world map in half, everything on the left-hand side is sort of being dealt with in one way or another. It's quite a lot, but yeah, you'll definitely be seeing a lot of the world. Have we covered most of these?
I think we've just got the the couple of questions about Evertrees. So we got one from Red Lioness and one from one of our fantastic mods on the Hit Point Press Discord, volunteer mod Vulpin, which are kind of a little connected. So Red Lioness asks, will there be any other living / magical trees on other continents similar to Alderheart? And will they be connected as part of one giant organism or distinct organisms? Will there be any campaign content around this or world lore? And then Vulpin has asked, would love to hear about other living trees like Alderheart as well. Doesn't just have to be a tree. So yeah, like we've actually just had a little kind of, this is part of one of our meetings that was like, we need to put in more information.
This week, I think, or even late last week, yeah. Yeah,
we need to put in more information about Evertrees because they are important. They are very important. And there is another Evertree kind of in this book for sure, which is Alto in the Tangle Wilds. But the idea of them being connected and connected to each other and connected to the world is something that we're kind of expanding on in this book. So we're giving you some more tree lore.
Yeah, and showing a different way that the tree is appreciated in Tangle Wilds and in Halara, which is the sort of capital of that area. They have a different perspective on how to live in. They don't live in the Halara isn't in the tree, for example, and so isn't in the elder tree. Yeah. It's in trees, but it's not in the Evertree. And there's
type of tree, like they're not all kind of giant deciduous trees. So yeah,
I think we're going to expand a fair amount on at least compared to how much detail there has been up to now. We're not going to. We could probably write a whole book about Evertrees, but we're definitely going to give a more zoomed out view on them in this to help give you context for that.
Yeah.
I think that answers that. Oh, and then Senior Arbolito says the second book will come with music. We love providing a soundtrack for the games, and the Humblewood one soundtrack is amazing. And yeah, we are working on the Humblewood 2 soundtrack. Verity and I get to listen to little snippets of it all the time.
They're so good. They're so good.
Cool. The vibe of it is so fun because it's, again, this globetrotting adventure more than this kind of smaller, cozy thing. And so we've got to like reference a lot of different types of musical instruments and types because music in the mountains sounds very different from music on the plains, and music in the jungle sounds different from those two. So yeah, we've heard some very fun, and it's just the scratch tracks, but we've heard some very fun stuff. So
yeah, and we're hoping there's been a lot of kind of like scheduling difficulties, but we're really hoping that some of the folks from Command Creative, the people writing the music, creating the music, will be on the stream next month. So that would be really fun to get them to come chat about their process. So fingers crossed the scheduling will work out.
Yeah, hopefully soon.
Yeah. I think it's going to be good this time. We've been trying to get it sorted, and I think we're good. But yeah, like as Jordan mentioned, the kind of like different cultural references, that kind of ties into a question that we got from Nadia Poppet. Are there any real world cultures, historical or current, that have influenced your design and the development of new settlements, cultures, etc.?
That's a difficult thing to walk because we don't want things to be appropriative or anything like that. Or a pastiche of things. It's tough to avoid, but certainly I think the best way to think about what we've tried to do is like we want the jungle to feel so much of jungle based cultures are based around what's left of it, but there are so many cultures that still exist in jungle settings that are vibrant and alive and real. And so we wanted to make sure that the Tangle Wild is representative of that type of culture, not just ancient ruins and places to plunder. I know I'm in an ancient ruin right now, but we really wanted to do that. So if there's any references, it's about It's about what those places, what it's like to live in the jungle, and what those places are like for real people who live there. And
and it's also for example, with the Tangle Wilds, the jungle, it's not an analogy for, say, the Amazon rainforest or like the jungles in kind of the Indian subcontinent. Like there's like it's like all Southeast Asia, like anywhere you might find a jungle, we want this to work as that kind of jungle. You see this in like the races that we have, like you have kind of animal people who don't live in the same the same like biome as each other. That's the true of Humblewood 1 as well. Like it's got mapaks, raccoons, and hedgehogs, hedges, and like some of those live in North America and some of them live in Europe. But because they kind of share a kind of environment, like they're both perfectly like at home in Humblewood. So yeah, like we try, like there are obviously cultural influences, and we try to bring in writers who kind of can speak to cultural influences, but it is very much not a like one-to-one, like this is the Amazon or this is kind of like the Alps or like anything like that.
Yeah, it's a careful thing to walk. And the other thing I think that we try and do that's we because animal kingdom is very diverse, and we're trying not to say this is where Allurans live, or this is like, the goat caprins are comfortable in the mountains and things and comfortable on the plains, but they're not the only people that live there. And something like a cat, it's more about what each of these different types of each of these different races looks like how are they influenced by the environments they're in, as opposed to saying this race comes from here and is responsible for everything that's happened here,
Yeah, and that kind of is reflected in our own world. Like if you you go and look up where crows live, they live everywhere. They live like they're absolutely everywhere.
They just might be a little more vibrantly colored in one place, or they're yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's also true of people, which is an important thing. D&D has a history of, this is a dwarf town where dwarves live, and that's just really not how the world works.
It's not the vibe we want to create here.
Yeah.
So when we're looking at culture, it's like we obviously we are humans who are inspired by human stuff, but also we try to be inspired by like the animals themselves. It's like, what is important to a cat? Like, is it the scent of things? Like, maybe scent is very important in Illuran culture. Like, what is important to an armadillo? Like, how does that influence? Like, how does being able to curl up into a ball and kind of hide from predators that way? How does that influence your view of the world? Or
bird nests are incredibly varied. We just recently we were talking about for Halara, like how are homes going to look there compared to different places, and really taking a reference from nature and sort of evolving the animal out to being like, okay, your house cat has become, the worst has happened, and your house cat has become a fully fledged sentient creature. Like, how would they live, right? And so that's really where we start from. Where you get in trouble is when you start using cribbing cultures for the art side of things, and that's I think where we are really trying to make sure that it's so easy to lean on an Aztec vibe for the jungle or whatever, and so that's where we really have to tread lightly. And we have such a great art director, and Verity and I Verity especially gets to be very hands-on with art descriptions and stuff, so that we can really make sure that looks good. Senior Arbolito says, Senior Arbolito means my little tree.
Or
So
Mr. Little Tree.
Mr. Little Tree, which is so you have a potential fan here to protect the Humblewood Forest. Well, it's constantly in need of protecting. That's why we have to keep writing these adventures. So you're in, Mr. Little Tree. You're in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a fantastic name.
Yeah, it's been fun to say. I'll have to say. I hope we're pronouncing it okay, but it's very nice. All right, do we want to talk a little bit about magic items before we run out of time?
Let's chat magic items. So obviously, if you still have questions, just feel free to throw them in the chat. But we do want to have a little chat about magic items today. It's kind of I think one of the last of the big design categories that we haven't really talked about on stream yet. And as you can see, we have some nice concept art here. So just to kind of start off with, like, Jordan, how do you feel about designing magic items?
I personally struggle with magic item creation and also the distribution of it in my campaigns. Magic items are something that has been you will often find yourself reinventing the wheels with magic items. So when we're creating new things for a book or a campaign, like my personal choice is to try and make things that are, well, of course, unique, that tell a story of the world, but also serve a purpose to the adventure and things. So for the most part, a lot of the magic items are stuff that we're trying to, like, find a spot for.
Really thematic ones.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit different. I think magic items are my favorite thing to design. And the reason is that they don't break the game, even if you make them a really weird. Because unlike like a spell or a class feature, if you give your players a magic item that is a little bit kind of over the top, you can put some limits on that with kind of like, this thing breaks after 3 uses, but they get to have that fun thing of using it 3 times. I find it very flexible as a design space. Also, I just love cursing things. It's like my passion in life is making cursed magic items. I don't think we're doing any for this. It doesn't really fit the vibe of Humblewood. But I like, my players at one point were just like very suspicious of all of the perfectly nice magic item shops that I set up in my game, because I just find like as a player, I like them because it's just another fun thing to kind of grapple with. But yeah, I just love a cursed magic item. I don't think we're going to be cursing anything today. I'll save that for another time.
Perhaps the uses of this magic item may be cursed, you know, but yeah. I like magic items, and you're right. They are a special ability that you can grant, and done really well, they are customized to a character even, which is really great.
That's really fun.
Things like Matt Mercer's, like, evolving, I can't remember what they're called, but a weapon or something that changes with and levels up with the character, 100%, that's what it should be. There's a really good, the people who designed the Lord of the Rings D&D stuff that is up on D&D Beyond now have a great video where they're talking about the magic items of Middle Earth, and that's really my philosophy, is like, when you find something, it should feel like the coolest thing you've ever found, right? Even if it's just a little sword that glows when orcs are around. But
yeah, this is your fun toy to play with in your game. Yeah, because I like an epic magic item as much as the next person, but I do also like a really inconsequential magic item that is just a bit like fun and frivolous, and the common magic items. Cape billowing. There's, like, when we were doing creatures and curios, I had quite a lot of fun designing a bunch of like pretty low level items that you could give to someone and not break their game. I think my favorite was the Cape of Cat Charming, where if you were wearing the cape, you had advantage on animal handling checks to interact with cats. You also could land on your feet if you fell, but it's a pretty minor. But like if you like cats and you want to pet all the cats in D&D, then this is the item for you.
They'll be all over you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so the item that we're going to be talking a bit about today is one of those heavily story-oriented items, and is in fact, I think, I've been thinking a little bit about it in preparation for our discussion, and I think that it really might be best treating these as a meta item of a sorts. That maybe because what we're working on today is a fizzer battery. It's something that the players are going to collect multiple of through the adventure.
If we scroll down, we see the top one is a kind of maybe a little bit of a spoiler thing you'll get to know in the book. But if you scroll down, there is another version which is kind of our prototype.
That's the Heart of Daco, yeah.
That is the Heart of Daco, from Heart of Daco. Heart of Daco is coming back in a big way.
And I think these are sort of more legendary versions of these batteries, but the fizzers used batteries in all kinds of ways to store elemental energy and use it to power their devices, trapping elementals sometimes, or just accumulating elemental energy from their surroundings to do it. And I think, so what we need is something that can be statted out as a magic item that the players can be collecting multiple of, and because they have to collect them for reasons, but also to tempt them to use potentially one of the things in the story is about when it's right to use magic, and when is it too dangerous, or is the cost too high. And so so I've been thinking about I think it would be interesting, because a lot of fizzer technology or gadgets revolve around the idea of amplifying things. And so I was thinking maybe if the battery was less something that had a list of things that it did on its own, but things that helped you do other magical things. So items that come to mind right away are things like the Ring of Spell Storing, which is really a kind of a meta thing, or
it's very flexible because you can choose what you're doing with it. And the other thing that I was thinking about was the Rod of the Pact Keeper, which actually interacts directly with a warlock thing specifically, which is giving warlocks back spell slots. So I'm thinking that that's the route we want to go down. These magic battle, like the Heart of Daco, it's got its own thing going on and does its own very specific thing. But these smaller batteries being a little more versatile and maybe being usable by a spellcaster to do things, I think would be. That's the route that I was kind of thinking for these, or a way they have a way to actually they modify other magic items. You get a magic item, you plug a battery into it, and suddenly it's more powerful. Something along those lines is where my brains were going. My brain. Yeah. I like modifying other magic items is interesting, but I feel like I really like the vibe of like amplification and kind of overclocking things and just kind of pushing things to the next level. I mean, it's like what do batteries do? They store the energy and then they release it. And so it's like, if you can channel that and like the power of an elemental, like what does that mean for you? I really like that as a direction.
So it's something that a spellcaster could almost use like a focus. Like that's I think how that would like, because unless you've got Fizzer technology to plug it into, you're using this like you'd have to use it like a focus, or it would be something that I could imagine someone who's discovered one of these wedging it into a staff, you know, not really knowing what it is, but knowing that they can use it to fuel things. So
kind of amp up their power.
Yeah.
And like, actually, that's an interesting question. So obviously spellcasters and like interaction with spells, I think makes perfect sense. It's like magical and energy and things like that. Do we want to find a way for this to interact with the Gadgeteer class? Given their kind of lore links with the Fizzers, that could be a like, it doesn't have to be the only feature, but it's like maybe another feature.
Yeah, or almost like a sidebar of alternate use for it if in the hands of a Gadgeteer.
Yeah,
it does something that interacts with the Gadgeteer class, and I think that is maybe that ability is more reliable as well. I like maybe the idea that using it more ad hoc is going to be problematic for
a little dodgy.
Yeah, not maybe full blown chaos magic, but that there's a chance on a failure or something that something could go bad.
That sounds a little bit like a curse, and therefore I like it.
Yeah, something that needs to be studied and understood. And if it's just used willy nilly, then you get into trouble. I just want to mention that Senior Arbolito said, "Thanks. I think I will order an Imperfect book and the D&D Beyond." And we thank you. Welcome to Humblewood, and we hope that make sure that if you can join our Discord or chat with us on socials and tell us about your campaign once it gets started. We love hearing we love hearing about all of that. So right.
Okay.
So what are the different knobs or things that can be tweaked on a spellcaster? We'll start with that.
A specific spellcaster. Bonuses is like your plus one, your plus two, things like that.
Standard wand of the war mage kind of vibes. Imposing disadvantage on saves, because like I always feel sorry for bards, because with things that just give a flat bonus because they don't have a lot of spells that actually involve them making attack rolls. You want this to matter to AoE.
Yeah. So
and then doing more damage, obviously.
Yeah.
The Fizzers are all about cranking that up.
Yeah.
Adding more dice or based on the type of energy stored in it.
Yeah, like which type of, because I think this is like because we've established that the different elemental energies are like trapped within these batteries. I think it's currently earth, wind, air, fire, and lightning. That's kind of the big ones. And so it's like, I think this is a space where we can kind of, if we're going to do extra damage, maybe it's like a die of that type.
You choose what kind of, yeah. And then spell slots, I think there could be something maybe to mess around with there. These one of the Fizzer, well, the Fizzer check in the Stormcrag is about basically overclocking someone and turning them into a sorcerer. So I think channeling something of that could be good, where and that could give a use potentially to someone who isn't a spellcaster, that they gain some spells or they gain some sorcerer meta magic or something where they can bend things because they've got a little bit extra. There could be something fun there.
I do like the idea of making this useful in some way to everyone, and like different ways. For some reason, my mind immediately goes to like non-spellcasters, kind of in a second wind kind of thing of like you are the Duracell bunny, like you could
sort of like Tony Stark's arc reactor is like kind of keeps him going or something. I think that what we're looking at now is a spectrum of if it's in the hands of a gadgeteer, it's very reliable and it does something that's really good. If it's in the hands of a spellcaster, it's a little more reliable. Anything that isn't a spellcast, or a little less reliable, but still within their understanding. And then there's just like the fighter throws it like a bomb. You know what I mean?
They just bite the top off.
And there's like these one-use super powerful things that you can do to, like you throw it into battle and shoot an arrow at it and it just detonates into a one-time kind of thing. Like, we don't have to do that, but I like the idea that it's this little bundle of potential that has all these different things that it could potentially do.
And I think if we keep the text pretty tight, because obviously this is a lot of mechanics to put into one item, but I think if we keep that text really tight, it'll be okay. Because we need to make sure it's kind of like stretching across an entire page. This isn't the legendary variety; those do exist in the book, but we've got a couple of those.
We have a question from Monkey Matt. Any mention about the continued story with Oswald and summoning of the aspect of fire?
There's definitely some intersections, I will say, with that story. We've had a lot of discussions about making sure that GMs have the information that they need to run it, but also it's like we have plans with that kind of big overarching story that go beyond even Humblewood 2, and we're just trying to make sure the information is in the right spot.
We're planting some seeds of further mysteries.
Maybe resolving a little bit of that mystery, and then as soon as you get that answer, it just opens up more questions.
I think what will help is like we said, we're going to expand the sort of history section of, because we have a lot of history about the individual regions that are being introduced, but we're going to have a section that deals with Evertrees in a big picture kind of way, about not necessarily detailing every Evertree, but more that they are explaining that they're connected together, that there is more than one of them. We're going to expand more on what elemental energies mean to Everden, because that does factor into the story of this quite a bit, the abuse of elemental energy and what happens when that happens, when you aren't a steward of it. We talk about it a little bit in the terms of the tenders, but there's a much bigger history to it that we're going to talk about. And I think that's where you're going to start seeing a little bit of what was going on at the end, and what Oswald was maybe learning from what happened to him. So we're gonna have room for all of that. Actually, just got an idea about maybe something that happened to him, but we can't. I'm not going to talk about it right now. So.
Write it down. Write it down.
It's
not in the document. Write it down somewhere else.
I needed to post it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for that question, Monkey Matt, in the Discord. Right, magic items. So maybe we just think of those three categories. What can gadgeteers do with it? What can a spellcaster do with it? And then what can anyone do with it? And come up with one cool thing for each. So spellcasting, what do you most, you like the amplification?
I do like amplification. If we give them all of these things, this is incredibly powerful. And that's a question of flexibility versus flexibility in itself is quite a useful thing in a magic item. But then I think you limit it to a number of charges per day.
Well, that is something that I was thinking about, because it is a battery. Batteries don't just...
number of charges per existence of it.
And I think that it needs a special rule for if you want to fill it with water elemental energy, then you have to find a suitable body of water for it to be in. So I think to balance that, it should build up maybe more charges than, or it could be based on how long you submerge it. Maybe if you submerge it for 1 hour, you get 1 charge. And so over a short rest, you could, and then it can accumulate up to 8 charges, 1 per hour, to a max of 8.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
And like that ties in nicely with the lore of the Heart of Daco, which has a recharging, it's kind of, the Heart of Daco is a very difficult object to talk about because there's like the true heart and the other hearts and but there is a sense of like recharging these batteries from a central source of energy. And I like that a lot for this. Because we don't want these to be kind of like I think you could let them die essentially by like overusing them without recharging them, and then it's like no, they're kind of broken at that point, which I think is an important part to get across with this sense of like stewardship of elemental energy.
You can incorporate maybe the rules that some magic items have, that if you use the last charge, you roll, and there's a chance, like on a 1 or whatever, that it won't work again. It burns out.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the opposite. Maybe it's when you charge it up to full. If we have that timer, maybe it's when you put that last charge into it, you roll. There's a chance that it just is too much, and it, so instead of it because
that's interesting.
Modern rechargeable batteries, they always suggest let it run down to nothing. That's good for it. So we could borrow that from the real world and say, empty battery is fine. It's harmless and not containing anything, but putting that last charge into it gives it the idea that maybe players won't fill it up all the way is kind of a fun thing to think about a magic item, because normally it's just like, give me all the charges for it,
Yeah, I like that. It's also just like it sets it apart a little bit from other magic items that people will have seen. Yeah, I like that.
I like the idea that on a short rest you have to find a spot, or the person, you want to charge it with water elemental energy. You have to have like this jar of fresh water that you sort of stick it in for 8 hours, and then it charges up. Or you throw it into the campfire and have to keep the campfire stoked all night. There's something fun about that.
Yeah, you bury it in the dirt.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I have to remember where you left it. And
how do you recharge the air one?
I think maybe you have to get it up to a very high
height, high height, the whistling winds.
You have to stick it on the end of a flagpole on the top of a tree or something like to really get it up.
And we've already established that like lightning in a certain region of the world crystallizes, which is pretty out there, magical type thing. Because I think lightning is the one that doesn't really connect to elementals. It is just like nature's power. So it's like getting struck by lightning.
Stormcrag, the Stormcrag region has some basically naturally forming batteries that of lightning, and so maybe that's not within. Maybe it's just too random chance to be able to literally collect lightning in a bottle. And so that's not an option on this list. Yeah. Because you can control all the rest a lot easier.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. It's like, oops, you got struck by lightning.
Yeah, there's a chance that it will happen. But it's a very dangerous.
Do you want to take that chance? Yeah.
Maybe there's like a 1 in 100 chance that when you stick it at the top of a tree when you're collecting air elemental energy, if a storm comes through, there's like a 1 in 100 chance that it gets hit by lightning, and you get up there and it's been charged with lightning energy instead of air energy.
Yeah. So we only have a couple of minutes left, but do you think that you can like cross charge these batteries, or like are they like universal, or is a fire battery a fire battery, and if you try and put water energy in it, the like mechanics of it are not compatible?
I like the idea that they're universal. I think that makes them it's an easy change that means that we don't need to describe a bunch of different ones necessarily, and that means that a player can find one that's charged with fire energy, and then when it runs out can be like, oh, we could use this for water instead. I like that. I like that idea. I like that whatever the technology is, the crystal at the center of it or whatever is a neutral thing that can absorb elemental. So I would, that way you can prepare for, you have that fun thing where you can prepare your battery for a fight against an ice creature by making sure that you've got it's charged with fire magic.
Yeah.
Like that's a fun vibe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, we're coming up to the top of the hour. So I think we've got some good ideas. I'm excited to chat with you next week and get this locked in. Write this up. It will be in the book. But yeah, and thank you all so much for joining us today and for all the great questions. Thank you to Sebastian, who's been running the stream. And yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks everybody. Thanks for coming out, and we'll talk to you soon.